What elements of your childhood in Manitoba and what town did you grow up in?
I grew up, I was in Winnipeg when I was born and
Okay.
initially, and then I lived in St. Andrews, Manitoba,
Okay, very good.
like in the middle of nowhere.
So, what elements of your childhood in St. Andrews were indicators that you would become an actor and a performer? And what early training solidified your desire to do it professionally?
Oh, wow. So, I mean, not to get like silly and emotional and I mean like early onset, I had a bad thing happen when I was young. I had some
Okay.
trauma. So I
Okay.
know that that sounds like, because I'm so tired of like hearing actors be like, it's my therapy to be an actor. Like, no, if I hope it might be, but there better be another reason you're doing it. But a lot of actors, a lot of people have gone through stuff.
Yeah.
And that's part of what gets them to kind of directs them towards this business. And I did everyone's had something happen in their life, and I had that thing happen when I was young. And then one night I was watching Kramer versus Kramer. I was really young, and my birth mom had left when I was 4, like walked out the door, never came back. And I was watching Kramer versus Kramer when I was really young,
Yeah.
and I was so moved by it. And coming from my history, I was like, and then I remember going to my room and doing what I now would call a monologue, but I didn't know what the heck it was at the time. And I played Meryl Streep's part, and then I played the little boy's part, and then I played
Wow.
Dustin Hoffman's part. And I was like having a whole thing about like how this little family, and I had no clue what any of that meant, but I remembered liking feeling all 3 of their versions, and I actually found it oddly cathartic that I could kind of understand in my head at that young age, like why Meryl Streep did maybe what she did. And then suddenly it helped me. So it's not for the therapeutic reasons, but that was the first time where just playing and acting, I guess, in a way, was something I was interested in. And then I did some plays, in high school, because that's the time you should play Lady Macbeth. Yeah, actually, no, let me rephrase that. I think I was in middle school when that one
Wow.
was done. Um,
Very ambitious.
yeah, but it was never really something I thought I could do. I mean, I didn't know any actors, and I didn't know anyone that
Right.
direct. I didn't know anyone. I was, cleaning the barn every morning before I caught the school bus, unless I hitchhiked there.
Yeah.
Um, it was just not something that was even going to be possible. And I had moved to Europe for work. And then I moved from Europe after 3 years, and I moved to New York. And a friend of mine, her husband said, you should take an acting class this summer. I've been working with this amazing teacher, Maggie Flanagan, at the Esper Studio, and I
Wow.
think you'd love it. And I was like, I would never be able to act. And then that I took the class and I was bitten. I was smitten
Oh,
and
that's so great. What a journey. Holy cow.
bitten.
How would you describe your technique of acting? I've read that Flanagan does Meisner. Do you use that process technique entirely, or have you learned other acting methods that you've combined with your Flanagan training?
I definitely Meisner. I am for sure a Meisner based actor, but I also, I didn't know because I didn't study at the actor studio, but I remember being on a set and talking to an actor, and they're like, the way you're talking is not your method, right? And I was like, no. And they're like, well, that's not Meisner. So I was like, well, it's method. So I think I pull from different things, and then a little bit of check off physical work as well. I just yeah, I think over the years I've also worked with a really wonderful coach named Rob McCaskill, and he's taught me so much. I think I just kind of I pull from different places
That's
now. Yeah.
wonderful. So
Yeah.
wonderful. What were the circumstances behind your first professional role and the first role where your character had an influence in the story? Were they similar in the audition landing the role, or were there significant differences?
Oh, wait a minute. I just lost you. I'm so sorry. I
Oh,
want your face back. There we go. Um, Gosh, my first ever role. I think it was, I'm gonna actually look. That's why I lost you. I think it was Ed. Was it Ed? No, it was my best friend's wife. Okay, so my best friend's wife, yes, I remember walking in. At that time, I had received this audition, and I didn't think that I should do it because I was still in acting school. And I went in and I auditioned for it. That was when things were in person back in the good old days. And I got it. And it was this movie that was filming in Jersey. And it was literally like the first time I had auditioned.
Wow.
And John Stamos was the lead. And oh, Daniel London, who's so good. He went from like this tiny little independent film to a Spielberg film. So that, that must have been shocking. But I was with a bunch of actors that had been in it forever. Like, you know,
Wow.
I don't even know how long Stamos has been working.
Right.
And I was the newbie, and I mean newbie. Like when someone said, check the gate, I was like, sure, where's the gate? Like, I'll do that. I didn't know that involved a camera. I knew nothing. And then I
Oh, wow.
finished that movie and I went back and I said to my then agent, which was really my commercial agent that just happened to send me out on this thing, I said, yeah, I don't want to work again until I've studied more because I did not know what I was doing on that set. And film is so different than you know where I was studying. We really focused on theater, and
Right.
you know I think I just got scared. I was like, oh my gosh, like
Right.
what just happened? And then I auditioned. I had like a tiny little thing in this show called Ed, but it's funny because I played John Slattery, who's now a friend. He and his wife are friends. That I played his date. I think I was literally called his some. I think the characters. I think his name was Marino, and I was like Marino's date or something like. But Adam Bernstein directed the episode, and I now that's Jessica Heck's husband. Jessica's one of my dear friends and one of my favorite actors on the planet, and he's done a lot of stuff from like Breaking Bad and everything. And I never did. I had such a little tiny part on this show, but John had been so kind to me, and Adam had been so nice, but I didn't remember what Adam looked like. And then my old neighbor knew them really well and had a party, and she said, you know, he's a really big director. And I said, what's his name? And she told me, and psh, I didn't remember that he had directed my first ever TV show. And she said, weren't you on Ed? And I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So those like that was my first movie and my first TV show. And
Yeah.
I mean, I just loved it. And I love acting so much.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was
Well, it seems like everything that you do is based on the destiny of where you need to be. I mean, because so much of it is serendipitous, you know.
yeah, I mean, for sure it is. I just actually came from a meeting with someone and we were talking about a lunch meeting and we were talking about the business and we were talking about exactly that, you know, um, she had asked me, do you get the breakdowns? This is this thing that actors can get, they're not supposed to get them is the point.
Right.
Agents, managers get them, but there are some actors that sneakily get them. And I don't get them because my agent and manager don't like me to call them and say like, hey, can I get this audition? Can I get that audition?
Right.
And she said to me that she's produced things and she's directed and she's also an actor. And she said that she does like to get her hands on them because she knows so many people in the business. And that's never going to get you a job, but there's so many incredibly talented actors out there that if they have the choice between three really talented people for the same part, yeah, it's going to come down to, you
Well, I
know,
work with her and I know her.
right. She's not a pain in the butt on a set. She's nice. She'll show up. She'll be ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so a lot of it is that. A lot of it is that. And also just having I had just been divorced. I was a single mom of two. And I got this crazy audition for this show that I wanted. It was serendipitous in a weird negative way ultimately.
Oh,
And my then agent had told me that it was a recurring part in Canada, but I lived here, but I'm Canadian. So I was like, okay, it's in Toronto. It's not that hard. I can, you know, figure out the kids.
right.
I can go there. And then it came down between me and one other person. This was years ago. Me and one other person, and we went into screen test. And before I went in, we had to sign our contracts. And in the contract, it said it wasn't a recurring, it was a series lead. And
Wow.
I called my agent and I was like, you know, like there were no cell phones. I'm on a payphone. I'm on a phone.
This was
And
long ago.
it was, and I said, I've got two little kids. I can't move them away. Their dad is in America. I can't. And he said, this is what he said to me. I knew that if you got the part, you'd do the right thing. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, you'd take the part. You could see your kids on holidays. Like you could see them in the summer when you're not filming. This thing has got the guts to go like years and years and years. And I'm on the sidewalk at 72nd Street at that point. And I'm like, wait, you're telling me that doing the right thing would be to leave my children, because I'd have to give up, like we had just been divorced and like no one could take the kids out of the state kind of thing. And he's
Right.
and he's like, yeah. And I'm like, that's insane. So I pulled out, I called my agent and I was like, well, I was on the phone with him and I was like, yeah, I I actually, that's not what happened. Was I then called my ex-husband. I said, any chance you'd let me move the kids to Canada? He's like, yeah, no. So then I called my agent. And I
Wow.
said, I have to pull out. And it was such a crazy moment because I also called Maggie crying. I said, she's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm at a payphone in 72nd Street. I just got to pull out of this thing. And now the casting director said she doesn't ever want to see me again because she feels that I messed them over. And so that was a weird timing thing where, I thought that I was doing the right thing and some people didn't. And do I obviously know I did the right thing? Yes, I have two beautiful young men, my sons, and without a question, but that was the last time that I that I got
Well,
close to winning.
did the series go on to do anything
For
or
so many years.
my God.
Yeah.
All right.
And by the
Well,
way, the woman that got the part was fantastic.
all right.
She was better in that role than I would have been, so it's all good.
It's all good. All right. Wow. The term working actor usually defines the performer who has a character type that fits into many circumstances. How would you characterize your character type? What are two examples of roles which fit that type that are slightly different but similar based on the type? You got me?
It's You're good. This is where I say I often get hired as a killer, and that's just so bizarre to me. So I don't know what they see in these crazy eyes, but um, I do often get hired as like the crazy person that's actually killing someone or hiring someone to kill someone, or like I don't know what it is about me. When I get a part, my kids are always like, Mom, three questions. Are you killing people? Are you dying? And are you keeping your clothes on? And gratefully for them, I've always kept my clothes on. So they've never had the
So
wrong
they
answer
don't
to
have the
that one.
Freudian nightmares.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, and get the bad one out. Yeah, I'm like killing people or, crying over someone that's dead. So I don't know. I think it's like an emotional thing. Those are the things that are, and I guess like what's similar about both of those characters, is just an emotional availability. You know what I mean? Like you have to be able to, when I played a killer in The Grudge, if you look at the behind the scenes, or not the behind the scenes, the scenes that were cut that are, you can find them on YouTube or on the DVD. It made sense completely to pull them out of the film because
Right.
it was not the right storyline. But the director and Sony were great enough and they put them out there. So, you can see like it's all emotionally driven scenes. There's a scene where I'm like drowning my daughter and it was such a hard and horrible scene to film,
Wow.
but that's the same character that was mourning over her daughter. You know what I mean? So like there's a emotional place that whether it's someone that's done something bad or at least the kind of killers that I usually play
Jesus, Carol.
are doing it because they're not well, or loss. I think that there's an instability about that kind of character that somehow I play. I just, it would be nice to play like a funny person once.
You'd be great at comedy. This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2026.